Hello and welcome back to Tracking Trends. As we said, this is the budget season, and most of the topics that we take up inevitably have something to do with the upcoming budget, which is going to be unveiled uh, on February 1st, the next Sunday. In the last episode, we focused on manufacturing, what's ailing manufacturing sector, and what can be done in the longer term as well as in the upcoming budget to fix it. Today, we turn our focus to exports, more specifically, the most critical segment of Indian exports industry, which is the engineering goods segment. And to do that, I have with me Mr. Pankaj Chadha, who is the chairman of Engineering Exports Promotion Council. But before I go over to Mr. Chadda, my usual request, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so, share it, like it, and press the bell button so that whenever we have a new show, you get notified. Welcome, Mr. Chadda. Thank you for taking time out. Uh, as you heard, this is about your industry and this is about the upcoming budget. But before we go into the specific of your industry and what the budget can do, let's just first get a big picture sense for our audience. Where do India's export stories stand today? What are the key challenges it is facing?
Well, thanks for inviting me for your show. And I can say that currently, as we all know, the geopolitical challenges are getting more and more difficult, more and more challenging, and I would say extremely difficult to predict. And that has resulted in what happening is that exporters who are normally prefer to have a certain environment, a secure and a safe environment, are finding that they are absolutely out of woods because the geopolitical situation is so rapidly changing and things are changing so dramatically that a lot of things are out of their control totally, and that's what's troubling them a lot more. I am sure the biggest question mark always is the tariffs. What do we do? How do we sort of go around them? How do we solve them? And as you can see, and the second part is it's part of the tariff only. It's basically the protectionism which is sort of growing into most economies, and which, as a result of which, is finding that not only the tariff barriers are there, but there are non-tariff barriers also which are being introduced so that to protect the domestic industry.
So,
On
I mean,
India's part, we are trying to do as many FTAs as possible. And in FTAs, we are trying to address both the tariff and the non-tariff barriers. Uh, we have done four last year in a very quick span: the India UK, the India Oman, the India New Zealand, and then we have, let's say, it's not a full it's basically we've upgraded our FTA with Australia. So there are four in a span of maybe less than 3 months. And then there was the ECTA, which we did before that. So
yeah.
totally five FTAs in the last year.
We altogether, in fact, 9 in the last 2 years, if we add up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
the mother of all coming up, the India EU.
the India EU FTA,
Yeah.
which we are told is almost ready and can happen anytime. And of course, the biggest pain point is the American tariffs, the India US trade deal, where we are not getting any line of sight. But before we go into those things, just for our audience, and I want to also you to weigh in on the data. The latest data doesn't really, it won't cheer anyone up. So the April December merchandise exports are barely 2.5% up. In December, it was dismal. And what is worrying, if when one dives beyond the aggregated figure, we find that almost in 15 segments, in 15 of the 30 segments for which the government puts out this monthly data, there has been negative growth, both in December and also for the April-December period. In dollar terms, when I'm talking, there is some relief when we look at in rupee terms. That number more than halves to 6, which means exporters are barely, probably in terms of their rupee earnings, might be holding their neck above the water. What's your outlook for now? We've got 3 more months to go, January to March. Do you fear that this year we may end up with nil exports growth? Because the trend line is coming down. It's slowing down month after month.
If you are looking at engineering, I think
No,
we
I'm
are
talking
around
about
4 to
overall.
5%. See, overall exports, as far as merchandise is concerned, I think we will be in the positive figure, but I would say 1-2% positive. I'm talking
That's so,
merchandise.
yeah,
But
perfect.
as far as merchandise and services, I think services is doing still very well. So we
Mhm.
should have a fairly decent growth when we add both of them together. If we look
Yeah.
at engineering, uh, I think we are at about 4 to 5% up at this point, and we will keep that trajectory as we go along. So I would look engineering, which was $116 billion, to be anything between 120 and 125 as we end the year. So we should have about 5% growth at least.
Mhm. But when I look at April, December in dollar terms, I think the growth is about 1.5% in the
For
first 9 months.
engineering or for
Yeah,
the no,
engineering for
engineering is 4.25,
okay.
around 4%. It's four and some odd quarters
In dollar
for
terms,
dollar terms, April to December.
okay, because yeah, I'm getting about 4% as far as the government statistics go.
Yes, that's what it is.
1.28% is for December.
Yeah.
Uh, so given that that's what I was telling you, asking you, that we see that the trend line is going down. In December you slow down to 1.28%. In the first 9 months you are at 4%.
Yeah.
So to get a 5% growth, actually you need in these 3 months to average at least close to 7%, and that's a very optimistic thing, given that you are facing fresh headwinds in Europe, the other big market for our exports. There has been the GSP withdrawal, which is by some analysts estimate is was going to affect 87% of Indian exports, and this comes on top of the carbon adjustment border mechanism, or CBAM, on steel exports. And we have no line of sight on what is happening with the US. So the 3 months to end this year, uh, one doesn't see any hope of a major turnaround. Do you? What is
I
making you feel optimistic?
I'll explain to you. See, as far as the GSP is concerned, the GSP was a decision taken 3 years back. As far as engineering is concerned, the GSP got withdrawn on most of the products 3 years back. It's just now that the thing that you see is just an extension of the suspension which was done 3 years back. So it's not something that is coming now. It's something is just renewed the suspension that happened 3 years back.
Mhm.
So from that impact, I don't think there should be an impact now because it is already concurrent since the last 3 years.
Mhm.
As far as the CBAM is concerned, yes, that's a cause for concern. But the CBAM charging mechanism is being pushed to 1/1/2027,
Mhm.
right? So therefore, the charge out, the actual outflow will be happening in 1/1/2027. So from that angle, I don't see these first 3 months as a challenge in terms of CBAM is concerned, though CBAM is a cause for concern because for future it is a problem. As far as the
Could you, would
uh,
you would you explain to our audience why CBAM is a concern, just very briefly?
yeah, the
Because it's a
CBAM is a
technical.
concern. I'll tell you why. CBAM is a concern basically because what has happened is two things. The European Union has not sort of determined. One is they have not determined the benchmark figures as yet. It's provisional still. They need to give us what is the actual benchmark that they will finally say, yes, this is for this item, this is the benchmark figure. For this item, this is the benchmark. It's a provisional, that figures have not come. Two even major problem is that even if we were to get, we are doing our CBAM data as well as verification. European Union is not agreeing to the verifiers which are present in India. But they have not given the list of verifiers that they say are accredited to them. So unless they come out with that list, how do we know whom do we to approach for to get our data accredited?
Mm,
Right. So they are not ready. That's the basic
mm,
point.
mm,
And the third part is basically is that they have just introduced some default values. Now the default values for India are extremely high. But what we are trying to say is that we are doing our carbon verification.
mm,
It is verified by international agencies which are present in India.
mm,
Right? If you have some other agencies that you feel should be doing the verification, please give the names, give the data. So we will approach them and try and get the verification done from them. In
mm,
absence of you giving the names or a list, and in
mm.
absence of you actually getting the benchmark data out, how do we proceed further on this issue?
Yeah.
The basically the shortfall or the action, cause of action is to come from EU. It's not from from the Indian side. This is as far as the major two. Yes, from our side there is a concern that we will have to improve our carbon footprint. We will have to have a situation of reporting where all our raw material makers also report their carbon data and making
Mm,
sure that everybody is on board with it. That is another challenge that we have. But from
mm,
the EU side, these first two things they have to settle anyway.
mm. Yeah. So our exporters run the risk of paying, in a way, a new tax for the carbon that they're
Yes,
burning in
yes.
manufacturing goods that they export, and that's a real pain point. Would that get addressed or get subsumed when if the FTA comes through?
No,
As does no, it will not. But the
no. I
GSP,
don't think so. But maybe some deferment may come for us, or maybe some sort of I don't know. It's still an outstanding issue. As I can see, there are basically in the goods part, there are three chapters which are pending. I mean, basically, it's the CBAM, it's the steel, and it's the auto. These are still the last mile negotiation going on. So let's hope something is addressed in this.
but if we do have this FTA in place, the GSP withdrawals, those things will get reversed, right? Our
Yes, yes,
under
yes.
under the GSP, Indian exports, particularly in areas of textiles and some of these areas where they got concessional tariffs, concessional export duties in European Union, and we lost it, as you said, 3 years ago, and it has been renewed again. So that preference will be back if we
Yeah, we will not
maybe
be MFN tariff. Yes,
uh,
we will not
yeah,
be
well,
MFN tariff. Will be the tariff which is agreed on or by the
agreed.
FTA.
It could be a better rate also, right?
Has to be a better rate. Why would we go for an FTA if we don't get a better rate?
Yes, yes. Okay.
It has to be
So
better than an MFN rate.
so 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 in a way, what you are saying that a lot is riding on the India EU FTA,
Yes, absolutely.
and we need to see this through very quickly because we don't know what's going to happen with Washington DC. When we will
Washington
get
DC is a question mark.
is question mark. And even if we get a deal there, what we will get out of that deal is also under question mark, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So in such, I mean, as you very rightly said in the beginning, that the Indian exporters are clueless about what's going to happen in geopolitics, and it's beyond their control. What is it that the government can do to shield you to the extent possible or to the extent justifiable?
See, from a government's angle, we can say that. they should be at least helping us. They have the CGS, the credit guarantee scheme, right, which is linked to those who are exporting to USA. If you have more than 5% of your exports to USA, then you are eligible for an additional uh, loan of your export working capital limits of 20% additional to a maximum of 50 crores per borrower. And the rate of interest to be 1% less than your current rate of interest.
Which
So
is
that is one is basically an additional finance, additional liquidity available to, I would say, the exporter. So that is one. The second one is the interest equalization scheme, which has come in for MSMEs, uh, where you get a reduction of 2.75% on your current borrowing rate. Uh, yes, here there are some challenges that some I would say items or some some chapters have been missed out, like chapter 72 has been omitted totally. So that's something which we feel the government should re-look at. Then in engineering, like parts of bicycles are eligible for interest equalization. But if you export the whole bicycle, it is not eligible. Now that is a very strange sort of a thing that make in India you want. If I make the whole bicycle and I export, I'm not eligible for interest equalization. But if I export a part of the bicycle, I'm eligible for it. I mean, how does it go against the ethos of Make in India? So these are anomalies which are there.
you're pointing out some very important issues, but just for the sake of benefit of our audience, because some of them these are very technical. So let me just take your help to simplify them. So let's take the first thing. When you said if any exporter 5% of his exports is going to America,
Direct
he
export. Direct.
direct
Yeah.
exports, he can get 20% additional finance, 20% of his working capital,
Export working capital.
export working capital. So if an exporter's working, let us say if an exporter uh, is exporting 100 crore, out of which 5 crore are going to the US, and his working capital, let's say, is about 20 crore. So 20% of this 20 crore additional finance is available to him.
Yes.
Is that
4
what you're
crores will
saying?
be available to him without
And
collateral. Without
without
collateral.
okay, and this is available at a rate of interest which is 1% lower than
His current borrowing rate.
his current borrowing rate, which is usually at what level?
Now, again, it depends on the exporter and his credit rating. I think anything between 8 and 10 is what I think it should be.
Okay, that's a very fairly affordable rate of interest. Now this scheme is already in place, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you want this to continue, right? This is one thing that
This is there for an allocation of 20,000 crores or 31st March 26, whichever is earlier. If the
okay.
allocation of 20,000 crores is completed, then the scheme stops.
Okay.
Or or it goes up to 31st March 2026.
Okay. So what would be your ask then? If it
Our
let's
ask in these two, we have two asks. One ask is basically that interest subvention has been announced,
Mhm.
right? Because
Yeah.
when this credit guarantee scheme came in as part of the export promotion mission, interest subvention was not there at that point of time.
Mhm.
Now interest equalization or interest subvention has come. So my
Mhm.
point is that 1% should be after the interest equalization, not from the gross amount. That's our
Okay.
ask. Say
Okay.
if your borrowing cost is 10% and interest equalization is 2.75%,
Mhm.
then your actual borrowing cost is 7.25%.
And then you are
So
saying
your 1%, you should have 1% less should be from 7.25, not from 10.
okay. So you are saying it should be 6.25% then.
Yes.
The government would say that we are giving you more by way of interest subvention. Why are you asking even more? I
No,
mean
no.
7 point.
The government's point, which I did argue I just went to Delhi to discuss and explain this. The government was under the impression that you can't avail two schemes simultaneously. They
Hmm.
said this is one scheme and the interest subvention is another scheme. But I
Yes.
explained to them that both schemes are for export. Both schemes are for reducing the interest cost. The question is, why would a borrower take additional 20% loan at say 9% when existingly he is getting at 7.25%?
Okay.
It is not logical. So
Okay.
therefore they got the point. Yes, it doesn't make logical sense. I said it won't take off. If you want to help, then you have to help him in the right manner. So they agreed
So
to that point.
so
I
what?
hope they will agree that interest subvention would be applicable on this
So
additional 20% also.
that's when you said they agreed. It's the officials of Commerce and Industry Ministry, right? So they
And the
have.
finance ministry. And the finance ministry.
Okay, so good. So it's in the right. The ball is in the right court. Okay. Now let's move over to the next issue which you were saying. Um the other complications with interest equalization you were talking about.
Yeah. The interest equalization, as I said, is it does not cover all the sectors. Our
Okay.
point of view was that in the erstwhile interest equalization scheme, as long as you are an MSME, all sectors were covered. You already had a cap of 50 lakhs. I said,
Hmm.
since you already have the cap of 50 lakhs, then what is the reason to exclude some sectors? That does not make sense. As long as he is an MSME, he is should be eligible for this interest equalization. Government is looking into it. They said that let us roll out the scheme now, and when in the review happens in March, they would look at certain more sectors to be added where which have been inadvertently missed out.
Uh, what exactly happens in interest equalization? Again, if you
The
could explain
bank,
to our
yeah,
audience.
the bank gives you upfront the interest equalization, which means if your borrowing rate is say 10, the bank would be charging you 7.25%, and the balance 2.75% they would be getting from the
Okay.
government.
Okay. Okay. So that's in a way what you're saying is an anomaly that needs to be fixed, right?
Yes,
And
it's an
particularly.
anomaly because some sectors inadvertently or whatever maybe have been missed out. We have said and we have explained to them like Chapter 72. The
Hmm.
government's impression was that Chapter 72 iron and steel comprises of all big units.
Hmm.
But the fact remains is that in engineering, let's say Chapter 72 has about, in my council, would be about 500 members,
Hmm.
and maybe 25 or to 30 of them are big units. The rest are MSMEs because if you are in the secondary sector, you would be an MSME.
Hmm.
So I said, as long as he's an MSME and he is exporting, there is no justification to remove him from the list.
Hmm. Now.
Similarly, as I explained to them, is bicycle. I said if he's exporting a full bicycle and he's an MSME, all bicycle makers are MSMEs. There is no reason why if he exports a full bicycle, you will say he's not eligible, and if he exports just the rim or the pedal or some part of the cycle, he's eligible. It
Hmm.
doesn't make sense, and it goes against your Make in India ethos also. You would want to have maximum value addition in India. Why would you want to export just the parts of the bicycle when you can manufacture the whole bicycle and export it?
I
So I
mean,
think they are looking into it.
yeah, some of these things are really crazy. Bicycle parts, if you export, you get interest equalization, but if you export the full bicycle, you don't get. And at the same time, you want us to go up the value chain. I
Yeah.
think sometimes, only probably the officers or bureaucrats who are making these policies, they only understand. And I'm sure they must be having some reasoning, which the common man, fails to get it. But be that as it may, what is it on the taxation front that's you think causing you a lot of pain, and you would like the finance minister to address?
See, from a taxation point of view, we said that for if you see MSMEs are generally not corporates; they are partnership, sole proprietorship, LLP. Now, if you see their income tax rate is 30% plus surcharge, so it comes to about 33% or slightly more. with the cess and all, 33, 34%, while corporates are having an income tax rate of 25%. So there is a gap of 8 to 9% in the income tax rate. So we said for manufacturing MSMEs, those who are involved in manufacturing, why don't you put their rates the same as corporates so that they have that extra 8 9% available to their capital to for their improving their modernization, improving their working capital, improving their scale of operations. So we have asked for a reduction in the income tax slab for for non-corporate MSMEs. That is one. Two, we have asked them is that we all talk about CBAM, we all talk about reduction of carbon emission. The question is, we have to walk that talk, we have to reduce. So what can an MSME do to reduce its carbon emission? Abhi, you, as you know, if you are from Delhi, you can see the rising AQI levels, you see the astonishing thing. And all you do is you try and stop industry, stop aggregate construction, stop something, odd even up kar rahe ho. You're doing everything. So I say, as a long-term solution, what can an MSME do to reduce his carbon footprint? I said the only thing he can do is put a rooftop solar. Right now, if you were to allow him 100% depreciation, if he puts a rooftop solar, he has at least got that incentive that whatever he has spent on it, he has got a rebate from the income tax, right? Because you have 100% depreciation. This way, he will be more inclined and more, he will feel more inclined to spend money on that. We don't want a subsidy from the government. All we are saying is he will spend his own money. Just give him the 100% depreciation so that he is got an incentive to improve his carbon footprint, reduce the carbon emission, and by having rooftop solar for his energy requirements. And we have also said that for R&D, there is no weighted deduction. We are requesting that at least a weighted deduction of 150 or 200% be added for R&D so that for the MSME sector at least, if not for everybody, so that the R&D from India increases the percentage of R&D. Currently, our R&D percentage to our sales is very, very low. It needs to increase. We need to incentivize that. So that's what we are telling them. And the last thing that we have told them is that, as I said, we need to take de-risk. Everybody talks of de-risk, but de-risk means going into not so popular markets, not so well-known markets, going into markets where we are not we are not there. So my only way is to get to de-risk. We need to take our MSMEs to these not so known regions, not so like Latin America, Central America, Ghana region. So for that, we are saying that for two basically exhibitions which are organized through councils, they should be allowed a weighted deduction of the expenses that we for these exhibitions, so that we can carry them to these new places. They can show their products. Brand India can be shown, and that's how we will be able to de-risk.
So, what about some of the issues you have had on the inverted duty structure and GST? Are they getting
See,
addressed?
yeah, inverted duty structure. Uh, GST too, though, has been a very forward-looking thing, but it has also brought about some anomalies in the inverted duty structure, and that has affected uh, those who are not exporting, because in export is zero rated, so you can get your refund back. But if you're not doing export, then the problem lies is that whatever was the reduction in the GST, you can't pass on to your customer because your GST is blocked at the government. An
Give
example is again,
us an example.
yeah, an example would be, let's say, bicycle. Now, the bicycle's biggest raw material is steel, around 65 to 70% of the cost of the raw material, of their input cost is steel. Now, steel is at 18%. Bicycle rate has dropped from 12% to 5%. The question is, if I am able to get my refund of the taxes that I borne on my raw material, then I can pass on the benefit of the lower GST to my customer. Because my money, my cost is still the same. My raw material cost is still the same. I have borne that 18%. So we have requested to the government that wherever there is this inverted duty structure, you pay 90% immediately, the 10% you pay after verification. Because to get a refund from a range is time consuming, extremely expensive, extremely cumbersome. So if you were to block the entire refund and say, I will pay you only after I've checked each and every of your books, then I can guarantee you this is going to take a lot of time. It's going to be not very cost effective. So how do I pass the benefit of 12% to 5% with the lower GST to the customer, because my money is stuck with the government? So we have asked for 90% to be paid upfront and only 10% after verification.
So the outlook uh, continues to be challenging for India's export sector, and there is a great deal of unpredictability, primarily centering around geopolitics, which uh, is beyond control of most of our exporters. But what is in control, um, us working together with government, uh, a few pain points can be addressed. The financial health of exporters can be protected to some extent through uh, easing of credit and credit costs, uh, and some measures which can also play in the longer term could be encouraging research and development, which invariably would add to the competitiveness of our exports, and also spending on helping Indian exporters diversify into newer markets, unknown markets. I think there probably they would need a lot more from the government than what they are getting now. These are what I could pick up as the main key takeaways, and of course, a lot now.
Rooftop solar, very important. CBAM.
Yeah,
We need
which
to
is
improve our carbon footprint. We need to
which,
improve it.
yeah, which serves three purpose. It enhances your carbon. It helps you on the carbon footprint front on reducing it. It also is cleaner energy, and it is also in the longer run profit. It can add to profit.
Cost
Uh,
effective. Cost effective.
of exporters. Yes, that's a good point. But above all of these things, I think in the immediate scenario, a lot rides on the India-EU FTA, and one still hopes against hopes that something gets worked out with the United States. But it is quite evident that there is no room for complacency. The exporters community and the government, they need to work together on a war footing, and they need to also respond to some very unpleasing state of affairs that we have allowed to creep into our system as well. I think you will agree on that. Thank you
Yes.
very much for your time. And to our audience, if you have liked our video, share it, recommend it to your friends and peers, and keep coming back to us. Thank you, Mr. Chadha, for your time.